Welcome back, everybody. The moment we've been waiting for is officially here. Kwon has announced the official plan they're moving forward with to fork Luna into a new project called Luna Classic. We're going to dive into the plan in detail, highlight the major points and what that means for you as a Luna holder or potential Luna holder. So let's get right to it. First of all, Kwon posted this update with a link to the official plan just a few hours ago. And right here, I just kind of want to highlight, one thing before we dive into this plan is that these chains. So first of all, it's going to be Terra, which is going to have the token Luna, and then the old chain is actually going to be called Terra Classic. So the fork is going to basically separate Terra, which is going to be the new project that's going to be supported by Luna, and then you're going to have Terra Classic, which is the old Luna blockchain, which is going to be governed by LUNC, so Luna Classic token. So both chains are going to coexist, which I found pretty interesting. I think, for people coming into the space, that could be a little bit confusing. But we're going to get into this because there's been some crazy responses, and whether you think this is a good plan or not, totally up to you. I think it has some flaws, but I also think that there are some good things about it. So we're going to get right into it. So first of all, just to kind of highlight a couple aspects of the summary. So first of all, Kwon's going to be in the fork of the Terra chain. He's actually going to be getting rid of the algorithmic stablecoin. So that means that obviously now, they're not going to have to deal with all of this kind of backing. I think, the algorithmic stablecoin is essentially what led to the demise of Luna overall, the collapse of UST. So he's taking that out. That should, take away some risk, but at the same time, that means that the infrastructure is going to be totally different with this new forked blockchain. Now, we're going to get into how these tokens are going to be airdropped, but essentially, Luna Classic stakers, Luna Classic holders, and residual UST holders on top of app developers of Terra Classic are going to get airdrop Luna tokens to start off as kind of the initial supply for the ecosystem. Now, another thing I want to note that people, he definitely had to do this because people were, outraged by the fact that there were a lot of these weird, backdoor transactions going between different exchanges, going in different wallets, and TFL's wallet was all involved in this, right? So to kind of mitigate some of those questions, he decided to pull TFL's wallet out of the airdrop. So now this new Terra will be a fully community-owned chain. So adding to that decentralization aspect that they, really have been looking to achieve the whole time Luna's been in existence. Now, I want to, before we get into exactly how these tokens are going to be divvied up, who these essential developers are, just wanted to note that there will be a target staking reward of about 7%, and that's going to drive kind of some of the token supply for the ecosystem once people start staking Luna Classic. So if you're interested in staking, that could be, a potential reward percentage you could look forward to. Now, when he talks about essential developers and folks that are going to get kind of some of this initial airdrop, he's talking about a lot of these. So I highlighted a couple that you're probably familiar with. In addition to some of these bridges like Wormhole and Axelar, you're probably familiar with things like Lido, Leap, and TerraSwap. So the DEX wallet and staking derivative applications that are native to or were native to Luna. And now it's kind of a race to make sure that these developers stay with Luna and that everything in terms of the infrastructure can be intact for them to continue building. So now we are going to get into how these tokens are going to be divvied up and how this is going to kind of look moving forward. So first of all, I did want to note that this is an important point, and we're going to get to this later, but basically essential app developers looking to join should signal public support for the fork on Twitter and social channels and coordinate with the community. Now, why this is so important is because this is an opportune time for other chains to come in, say, hey, we're not going to crash. We're not Terra Luna. We can provide a good environment for you to build on. And I would, surmise that Luna is probably going to lose a decent amount of developers. So this is kind of something that he wants to start building that brand back up, start building the momentum back up to have people come out and say, hey, we are going to build on Luna, regardless of what happened previously, we're going to come back to Luna. So just wanted to highlight that before we got into kind of the technicalities of how this token distribution is going to work. So similar to the previous plan, it's going to have 1 billion tokens. Now, here is the breakdown. So first of all, 25% of that is going to go to the community pool controlled by stake governance. So that's going to be, I'm assuming, unlocked over a period of time as people stake their tokens, and that adds to the inflation of it. 1% is going to essential developers emergency allocation. There's no lockup for that. Another 4% is going to these essential developers, some of which we covered up here. And I believe more will be added to the list. And there's going to be a 1-year cliff and a 4-year vesting granted after that launch traction. So this is kind of interesting. I understand the reason for the cliff because you don't want people to just, straight up sell everything. But for folks who lost a ton of money to then have the founders say, hey, these new tokens you're going to get airdropped, you can't sell them for 2 or 4 years. I think that's going to leave a bad taste in a lot of, retail investors' mouths and just kind of something to keep an eye on. But here is where we get into kind of the meat of what it means for Luna holders, for just your average Joe, for people who are interested in Luna. So first of all, 35% of all bonded, unbonded Luna minus the TFL at pre-attack snapshot. So the pre-attack snapshot is taken at the Terra Classic block. This is on the 7th of May. So right before that attack happened. So that's when he says pre-attack, that's the timeline. So that's the date you need to keep in mind, May the 7th. So all bonded, unbonded Luna minus TFL at pre-attack snapshot. So at May 7th. Now for all wallets less than 1 million Luna, 1-year cliff, 2-year vesting period. All wallets greater than 1 million Luna, 1-year cliff, 4-year vesting after that. Now 1-year cliff, that usually means 25% will vest after 1 year, and then the rest through that time frame of 2 to 4 years. Now 10% of this is going to go to Luna holders with the staked Luna included at the launch snapshot. So that is next Friday. This Terra Classic is coming out on the 27th, so next Friday. So if you are staking at that point, this is what this means. Now at the launch snapshot on May 27th, 10% will be unlocked at the start and 90% of your airdrop will be vested over 2 years. Now that's where that vesting, this is where it's going to kind of maybe rub salt in the wounds for a few folks who have lost a ton and now they need to basically wait 2 years to get something that which may or may not be valuable in the long term. And then in the end here, 25% will go to UST holders at the launch snapshot. So on May 27th, 10% unlocked at Genesis, and then the rest vested over 2 years. Again, I understand why they're doing the vesting, so there isn't a crazy sell-off at launch, but at the same time, I know people are going to be pretty mad at that. So another thing I wanted to mention here was that it's really, really important to follow the timeline. So we're going to have, obviously, the announcement came out today. We're going to see that governance proposal coming out tomorrow. Terra Core releases cut on the 21st, and then we're going to have essential developer registration on the 25th. So he's basically asking people from different developer groups to commit to Luna by next Wednesday. So that's definitely something to watch out for. I think we're going to see a lot of developers move off of Terra Luna, to be honest. I have seen some commit, but at the same time, it's really hard to come back from this. And then on the 27th, really, really important, guys, that's when the network's going to launch. Luna Classic and Luna will be born. So it's going to be interesting to watch what's actually going to happen there. Now that we don't have UST, right? Well, at the fork, we won't have UST. It's going to be interesting to see what actually happens to this project when you take away the algorithmic stablecoin. So would love to hear your ideas on this, but the next thing I want to talk about is the response to this. So we covered this previously, but CZ, CEO of Binance, very intelligent guy, very knowledgeable about this stuff. He said, the forking is not going to work because it doesn't give the new fork any value. And so you can see some of the plans with the vesting and kind of bringing back the essential app developers, how, Do Kwon might be trying to prop up the value of the new fork, but CZ is basically saying in the long run, it's not going to do anything. And what should be done is a buy and burn of the rest of the tokens. And a lot of people in the community had suggested that previously. If you go down here to the comments, some of the first things that people are saying on Do Kwon's thread is essentially, hey man, like we told you what we thought was going to be successful. CZ said he thought, buy and burn would be successful. But obviously, Do Kwon is going for the fork. It's kind of an all or nothing. I mean, this thing could fall flat on its face. There are, a lot of Luna holders, very, very strong community. But at the same time, a lot of people don't have much faith, including CZ, in the ability to fork this and then basically create a project that's as impactful as Luna was previously. So definitely something to keep your eye on there. The other thing is, I think we're going to start seeing this from a lot of different chains. So this is VeChain, ticker VET. We've done videos on it before. You might be familiar, but they invited layer 1 developers from Terra Luna to come over to VeChain, and they were going to offer up 30 grand per developer project to help with that transfer, help with the migration. And obviously you can see right here, this is a punch to Kwon and Terra Luna, leading enterprise grade public blockchain, 100% uptime, sustainable and rapidly growing in the EU. So developers are basically now going to be forced to make a choice. Do we trust what Do Kwon's done before? Do we think that this is going to stay successful? So why I'm spending so much time on this is because this plan is dead on arrival if these essential app developers do not come back, because all of these apps are essential for Terra Luna and then Terra Luna Classic to function. So it's going to be really interesting to see if they do come back. If they don't, this plan could just fail right out the gate. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. I think we're going to see more and more chains doing something like this, whether it's 10, 20, 30 grand, maybe even more, saying, hey, migrate to a chain that's not going to collapse, migrate to a chain that's well managed. So really interested to see what this means for the future of Luna and these other blockchains. Now, the last thing I want to note is I personally haven't been a huge fan of how Do Kwon's handled the situation. I think he should have communicated a little bit better. And, with this revival plan, it almost seems like he thinks this whole thing's going to go away and that people are going to be made whole by this. As you read his tweets, that's kind of the sentiment you get, that this is the solution and it's going to work. But I think he's forgetting that people are still very pissed and still lost a lot of money. And with that 2 to 4 year vesting cliff that we talked about, there's going to be essentially no reimbursement for a lot of these folks who have been holding on to UST, to the ground, because they're going to have to wait for that Luna to vest over a specific amount of time. So we're starting to see the repercussions of this. So people, I think this is the second person who's done this. I could be mistaken, but a man broke into Do Kwon's house. He apparently lost 3 billion won. I believe that's, hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'd actually have to do that. But I believe this is, it's $2 million. That's quite a bit of money. Guys. So I can understand why he's pissed, maybe not break into someone's house. But at the same time, he needs to understand that he has affected so many lives, and just forking this blockchain is not going to get rid of what he's done to the community. You guys have, made a great point of pointing it out in the comments. Like, there needs to be some sort of consequence here. So regardless of how good this plan looks, I think it's still a really uphill battle. Again, pre-attack snapshot for you to get an airdrop was May 7th. So if you were holding Luna then, you're going to get some portion of that drop. That's 35% of the overall drop. And then again, if you are staking, if you're staking Luna, or you are holding UST still, by May 27th, you will then be snapshotted and airdropped that second Luna token. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully this was helpful. I love following this. It's been entertaining, but also my heart goes out to those who have lost quite a bit of money. But thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.